up every morning light, go to work from day till night.
Every morning light, go to work from day till night.
Got a pocket ticket to pay, and no money there. Why not tell me picnic this tree? What a beautiful day. Good morning, what a beautiful day. Good morning, with the troubles away. Good morning. Evening come and I want go home. Yeah, the shot and the piece of tell this I want go home.
Every morning light,
Evening come and I'm ready to drop. Yeah, the shot and the piece of tell this I want go home.
morning till evening, you work all day from morning till evening.
Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of the Business Perspectives. I think we're on our 7th show, Dion. So for those of you who missed the last 6 shows, I'm Kay Menzies, and this is Dion Elliott, and we are representing the Belize Chamber of Commerce on the Business Perspective show, which will last till 8 o'clock. So how's it been going, Dion?
It's been going good.
Well-
Well, what? It's been going good. It's been going okay. Give or take a few concerns here and there. And as we normally do, we normally start off the first part of our show, discussing current events, so to speak. And
Issues affecting the business sector.
you always have the way to put these things so nicely. But yes, it is issues affecting the business sector. And like as we were discussing earlier, I think one of the things that we have to highlight is the crime situation that has been going on lately. I know it's not necessarily the best way to start off a morning, but it is concerning when you look at some of the news items coming out lately with some of the stores that have been robbed or otherwise held up at gunpoint. We saw not too long ago, I think it was November 1st, there was a pizza man, a delivery man that was robbed. There was the Western Union employee that, as the security camera showed, the guy just walked up and seemingly knew that she was coming with the amount of money.
And calmly took it and looped off.
Right.
Slowly.
We have the Amit, I'm not going to even try and pronounce his last name,
Amit
but the
Moriani.
Mariani. There we go. Where, again, it was another robbery. I think that one was November 3rd. And so we have seen, and that's just November. And the scary part is that we're at November 14th, so we're kind of halfway through the month, and we've seen several in November.
Well, the problem is that this is the time of year when things actually heat up because the holidays are coming, and to put it very bluntly, these are predators who want money, so they go where they think the money is coming in. So people trying to make a living, like the pizza delivery man and so on, all of a sudden find themselves because they're trying to make a decent living, find themselves being victims. The other victims that aren't mentioned in this list yet are taxi drivers.
Yes.
There have been quite a few attacked, a couple
Albert
killed.
Patus being one of them.
And the fact is that people trying to earn a living should be allowed to just earn a living.
Yeah.
Instead of being in fear of their lives. Plus, it adds a business cost as well because you have to spend money to try and
And
protect
security.
yourself.
Yeah.
And people no longer feel free to travel. We were talking about Chetumal the other day, and somebody pointed out to me after that show, one of the reasons people love to go to Chetumal is they feel safer and more secure. Because it's not just the business that ends up being afraid, it's also the customer.
Yeah. I mean, we've seen sometimes in some of these same robbery events where not only the shop owners are being caught up in the robbery event, customers in the stores, and it really, I mean, I look at Albert Street. I could remember growing up, in years past, Albert Street at night used to have
Lots of
lots of activity. And now you go around there about from around 7:30. You start
Businesses
seeing
are closed.
Are closed. I remember one night I was walking Albert Street around 7:30, close to maybe 8, and I again was noticing that almost all the stores are shut down, and if those who are not shut down but closed, and those who are not closed are in the process of closing. And then, but what I see also is a lot of police trucks. I mean, obviously the police, they know about the crime situation, I suspect, because in that one stretch, walking from, I think, in front of where Brody's is down all the way down, I probably saw at least 2 or 3 different police vehicles moving around like every so often, and so it tells you something about what's going on in the society. And I think as a business community, we definitely are concerned about that type of thing, because it does, like you rightly said, add additional cost to business, whether it's just by way of security, whether customers decide to say, hey, well, it's not even safe enough for me to go around that area anymore.
Yeah.
I remember a particular restaurant, I won't mention their name here because I don't know if they want to be noted on TV, but again, they were in that same Albert Street downtown area, and one of the biggest things that they said they had difficulty with is that they could not compete with their competitors because they could not open after hours because for fear of being robbed.
Right.
So they eventually, that restaurant shut down. I mean, they're still operating at a smaller scale, but in a completely different location.
Well, that's less jobs, less
jobs.
income, less everything.
Yeah.
And one of the things I remember friends from Belmopan saying to me that they don't want to come into Belize City because they're afraid, but now it's spreading because you have stories coming in
All the way
Orange
from
Walk,
Punta Gorda.
PG, Belmopan itself, Corozal, and so on. And it's countrywide now. But the fact is that we have to find a solution for it because it's contributing to the decline of the economy.
Yeah, okay. I mean,
And not to mention what it's doing to quality of life, no?
yeah. I mean, yeah, and the Chinese community, we saw them protest not too long ago, and they shut down business for
When
the-
one of
for
theirs,
what-
when
yeah.
one of their members was killed.
And that's not the first time we've seen that, but I mean, it happens. And I look at it and I'm saying it's happening too often, not just for one community, but across the
For
board.
everyone.
It seems it doesn't discriminate. You have, I think there's an Indian shop owner, Indian Belizean, there's a Chinese, there's the Belizeans, you know, what you would call, you know, and
As I
and
said, anybody trying to earn a living
trying-
seems
so
to
it's
be a
just
victim,
the attraction
be
to the money.
victimized for trying to earn a living.
I mean, it's not so much business directly, but the other day we had a couple that's living, and they broke into their homes, tied up both the husband and the wife. I think the wife suffered a neck injury in the process.
Right.
And if you notice what they said in their interview, we're leaving.
Yep. They thought they'd have a happy retirement in
They're
Belize, and
yeah,
now they're
they're
leaving,
leaving.
and they're telling everybody why.
And the funny thing is that I think people don't realize is that that message, they're going to tell their friends, if they're bloggers, they're going to blog about it, or somebody's going to blog about it. And so the next bunch of people who are thinking about investing in becoming people to reside in Belize, they're going to like, well, I don't know if I consider that to be a safe place to live, considering what happened to them. You know, and so you have all these things that can affect.
Well, and that's where I think people need to understand that the issue here is that you're looking at growing a country, improving a country, making it a proud place to live, and it is a proud place to live. But these are the sorts of things that tarnish the shine that we want to be on the country.
And it affects other things. I could tell you, I mean, as you know, years ago I was working with BTB, and anyway, we had an event that was coming into the country, and I won't go into details with that. And I remember clearly, because it was my team working with it, where the individual clearly said they were coming and they weren't concerned. They were okay with the level of security that we were providing in the beginning. This is an investment, you know. And he went and Googled Belize, and he saw the number of crime that was going on, and he was like, you know what? He contacted his agents, called back. We need more security.
So basically the question is, the issue is we're upset when people list us out there as one of the most dangerous countries in the world, Belize City as one of the most dangerous cities in the world. But what are we all doing, not just the authorities, what's everyone doing to change it?
You know,
What is there that can be done?
Well, I think more resources definitely need to be going into things that help police solve crime. I think
Right.
that's my personal position on that. There are certain things, and again, there are costs associated with everything. But again, we need to fix some of the ways that we need to do investigations, and the police and the criminologists know better than anyone what those are. But I think it always comes back to a resource constraint issue, and I think I hear that all the time. From the social private sector standpoint, I don't know if they're still doing it, and I probably should have checked into this before I came up here, but there is the People's Coalition of Cayo. This is, you know, I had always admired years ago what they were doing, and probably they're still doing, where they saw the needs in some of their local police stations, and they lobbied together and they raised funds to try and, okay, you need handcuffs, let's help raise, because that's some of the things that the police officer need,
Right.
handcuffs, something as basic as that. And so they help to raise as a community the money that they to help fund some of that. And I always remember talking back then to the organizers for the People Coalition of Kayas that we need that model in every single municipality and district in this country.
And then there's citizen actions like setting up a neighborhood watch, memorizing the number for Crime Stoppers or keeping it with you and calling. I think the police had started a program, See Something, Say Something. If you see something, call it in. But, there's all of us, I think, have to get together and take action and let the criminals know that they're marginalized. We always talk about Belize as the jewel. Jewels don't stay shining and gleaming and sparkling if you don't polish them. So I think this takes an effort. And I never thought I'd think of this as a happier topic, but let's move on to a happier topic, the Public Accounts Committee.
I made sure I laughed this time because I think the last time we brought this up, you said I sighed and it was...
You did.
No, but yeah.
There was reason to sigh at the time, but maybe there's a little bit of light at the end of that tunnel at the moment.
Well, yeah, we...
Reason for optimism, no?
I try to be optimistic, I try to always be as much as possible as optimistic as I can, but I don't know if I always succeed.
Well, they met.
They met, and coming out from what I'm hearing from Deputy Prime Minister Faber, they seem to have met and had a mature set of conversations, and they were able to, I think they had presentations from the Auditor General, and as he was explaining, she was updating them on some of the functions of the different departments and agencies within government that has to do with the budget and how the process works. Now, I kind of was like, okay, so we just are getting a handle of some of what these offices do. Anyway, thank God for Small Mercies. They're meeting, and basically that's what they're meeting about. I think our next meeting is coming up soon. Then eventually, I guess they will get into the audit report itself and go from there.
And I think we'll have that discussion on a future show. But I think people, for us, we need to understand that a mature discussion, at least the fact that a mature discussion is occurring, is a start.
Yeah.
The issue is that both sides now need to keep that maturity level up and focus on the important issue, which is the accounts of the country.
Yeah.
So the Auditor General has been very much looking for this, and I'm sure she must be feeling a little bit better to see this kind of, at least there's a little bit of progress here.
Yeah.
But let's not take our eye off it.
No, and I wouldn't encourage anybody to do that. I wanted to do this morning because I know in the media we oftentimes talk about the Public Accounts Committee or the PAC. And I wanted to just mention from the standing orders what the PAC does.
Right.
And it says here, the Public Accounts Committee shall have the duty of examining, considering and reporting on the accounts showing the appropriation of sums granted by the National Assembly to meet public expenditure of the country. So they're the main police, the last step, if you wish, to look and investigate what's going on with how we're spending the money that last week we were talking with Financial Secretary Joseph Wayne, who was talking about the budget process.
Right.
We know that in next year, the beginning of the fiscal year, we're going to have these debate days in the National Assembly where we're going over the budget, and of course eventually the House approves the budget. And it's the Public Accounts Committee that needs to come and police, so to speak, along with the Auditor General's office, how that money has been spent. And as a standing committee, they have the authority to call in ministers, CEOs, or whoever it is to make sure that they give account of how the monies have been spending.
Yeah.
They're not limited to that. They also have such other accounts as may refer to the committee by the House, and of course the report of the Auditor General on any such accounts. On any such accounts. So whatever the Auditor General decides to look at in these financial accounts, they have the authority to look into that. So it's a very important body that is designed in our standing orders of the House to police and to make sure that the public monies are being spent how they should be spending. So it has been a concern consistently why that body was not functioning the way it should.
Right.
I don't know if we have time to get into what the whole conversation has been about reconstituting it, because right now we have 6 members, 2 from the opposition and 4 from the incumbent government. But there's been discussions about restructuring that, so we have more representation from the social partners, and that's a whole discussion in itself. I think that's a whole show in itself.
Yeah, but the idea is to get the Public Accounts Committee functional, examining the accounts rationally instead of from a partisan perspective. I always contend that politics get in the way of development, and in this case, the Public Accounts Committee has been a prime example of that, where politics has literally gotten in the way of this committee doing its job, fulfilling its tasks. So let's hope that, or let's try and ensure, but certainly let's hope that this late this meeting and the way the Deputy Prime Minister spoke of it, that this is leading to a more bipartisan approach, at least in some aspect of governance.
Yeah, and what I will say as my final point on the Public Accounts Committee, these type of bodies, and this might sound, anyway, cliches, but they can't work without the people wanting it working. Because when you look at the back and forth between the politics and the attitude that, I mean, it's rare that it will work if those parties are themselves are the one that we're hoping on. It has to be that the people of the country are insist that we want this to work.
Yeah.
Regardless, we don't care if it's blue, red, green, purple, it has to work. And the bottom line, it comes back to the point that, I mean, I remember years ago when I was still in the media, and we had numerous articles about whether or not the Public Accounts Committee should be public, open to the public, or behind closed doors. And that conversation kind of came up again in Minister Faba's own comments. And I think they dance around the question with Section 72 of the standing orders that says that the members of the public shall be allowed sufficient opportunity to present their views. And what does that mean? I remember those days, I remember talking to Mr. Gian Gandhi, and he referred me to May's parliamentary practice.
Yeah.
This is this authoritative book that guides parliamentary procedures, but it's usually from uncodified aspects in the Constitution. And at the time, the interpretation was that it should be public because of that standard norm and convention. Of course, legalese get into the matter, and people debate whether or not it's open to the public or not in the way that the Senate Select Committee is now open.
Yeah.
I mean, that comes at its own cost. But in the end of the day, again, whatever we want to see working with the Public Accounts Committee has to come from the citizenry saying, listen, and we're not saying you have to go riot and break down anything, but just tell your representatives, listen, make this a priority issue. We need this to work.
And that's first and foremost, but whether we talk about publicizing or whatever, first and foremost, we need it to be functional and properly functional.
Yeah.
And also, Love FM has informed me, in order for them to remain functional, they have to go to a break now.
Yeah.
So.
Again.
And I can't help loving myself, and I don't need nobody else. If I was you, I'd wanna be me too. I'd wanna be me too. I'd wanna be me.
Stream, share this summer with the best mobile data and make it a fun time with Smart.
Getting sick is always out of our control.
Welcoming a new baby into the world is always a joy, but with both scenarios comes missing time from work.
Now, thanks to Social Security's new direct deposit service for short-term benefits, life is easier. No more cashing of checks, but a direct deposit into your account. It's secure, reliable, convenient, confidential. No more checks. So whether it's sickness or maternity leave, sign up today for direct deposit with Social Security. Social Security Board, committed to service excellence.
Christmas is the time for caring and sharing and for fun family moments. Join the Love Crew on December 10th for Love FM San Pedro Christmas Parade. Residents and visitors alike are invited to line the streets of La Isla Bonita as community groups, businesses, and Christmas lovers entertain spectators of all ages. Of course, Santa Claus and Mrs. Claus will appear in person to usher in the season. The parade starts at 5:30 p.m. from Boca del Rio, then goes into Laguna Drive, Pescador Drive, Tarpon Street, Barra Reef Drive, and ending at the Central Park. If you would like to participate in the parade or for more information, call 604-3633. Christmas on the island with the Love Crew. Happy holidays!
We're up on the finishing of the album. We just do the lead couple things.
Good morning and welcome back to Business Perspectives. This is the second segment of the program wherein we like to bring in guests and talk to them about issues affecting the business sector, how the economy runs, what projects are coming up that might help the economy to run along a bit faster. In fact, I'm not sure we're running, I'm not even sure if we're walking or crawling, but that's different days of the week. This week's guest we're very happy to have with us today is the new Executive Director of the Economic Development Council. You'll hear all about what that is in a few minutes, so I'm not going to steal his thunder, but we're very pleased and happy to welcome Ishmael Quiros.
Thank you very much. A pleasant good morning to all viewers and listeners. Happy to be here.
Morning. They said, I noticed how she emphasized new, freshly minted.
Yeah, as in we won't torture you as much as.
I appreciate that.
Now let's talk about it. So we get nervous. No, but welcome. And I think it makes sense, as Kay just mentioned, for us to talk first of all about what the EDC is. You know, to make sure we had done some conversations on this recently, but just in case anybody is new to the whole topic, what is the EDC?
So the Economic Development Council, or the EDC, is an advisory body comprised of public and private sector representatives, equal and senior ranking, both from among the government as well as from the private sector. The objective of the EDC is to foster and enhance collaboration and dialogue between public and private sector, and the end goal is an improved business climate. The EDC advises the Prime Minister and by extension the government on policy design with an eye to improving public sector processes that ultimately have an impact on doing business in Belize and on the experience of having confidence in doing business in the country.
And you're specifically, I mean, the EDC is the advisory board, and anything you mentioned is made up equally of government and private sector. There's 10 members of that council.
That's
divided
that's
even-
correct. The composition is 10. We have 5 chief executive officers from various ministries, including the financial secretary. So apart from the financial secretary, there's the CEO of the Ministry of Agriculture, of the Economic Planning Unit, of the Office of the Prime Minister, of the Investment, Trade and Commerce, together with the financial secretary.
Yeah, and then we have private sector representation.
And private sector representative also represents a spectrum of different areas of commerce and industry in the country, including tourism, distribution, agriculture, exports. So that's the 5 for the private sector.
Excellent. Well, we won't get into who these private sector people are because some of them are a little bit. One of them is a little bit closer than we want.
I suspect listening closely as well.
Listening quite closely, but yes, and but I want to get specifically into your office because while the EDC is the council, the secretariat is what you're the ED of.
And yours is a full-time job with a fair amount of duties, huh?
That's correct. So the public-private desk within the Office of the Prime Minister serves as the secretariat of the EDC. And our role, of which I'm the director of the public-private desk, is to provide project management support and technical assistance to the EDC for it accomplishing its mandate. So we run with a lot of the practical work that needs to be done in formulating and researching various policy options, as well as enabling consultation and making sure that the private sector has a voice within government. So that's our primary objective. You should know that together with the public-private sector desk, the Economic Development Council is the primary mechanism for communication and dialogue between government and private sector in Belize. So its function is critical. I think we've all seen an evolution of the relationship between private sector and government. And what it will take to bring about meaningful change is constructive dialogue, open, frank discussion about different perspectives, understanding needs as well as limitations, and having a clear idea of what's at stake.
Now, in terms of dialogue and in terms of advice, what specific projects is the EDC working on at the moment, and the office?
Great. Thank you so much for asking that question, because there's a lot of work that has been done and a lot of work that continues in motion. There are some key activities that have been underway, and perhaps just to backtrack a bit, in between 2013 and 2016, the Economic Development Council benefited from an institutional strengthening project funded by Compete Caribbean, which enabled the EDC to be set up and then formalized, as well as have had capacity built up to get into the job of policy reform. And that was a major project and a major activity that was needed in order to set up, to establish, and to really wet our feet with the topic of policy reform and business climate improvement. And that has led to a short list of very focused interventions, including trade license reform, an amendment to the Belize Building Act, packaging and labeling reform, trade and tax modernization, and now we're venturing into the realm of e-government with the objective of creating or realizing efficiencies in public processes to the benefit of the business community. So those are some of the main headlines of the projects and initiatives underway. All have varying levels of advancement, some closer to completion than others. And it's also important to bear in mind that the EDC itself does not implement policy reform. These are led by respective line ministries that have responsibility for the various subjects. And what we do is provide assistance and also ensure that especially the private sector stakeholders have a say in the development and formulation of the change that is needed.
How does, as you say, the line ministries have to carry it out? How does the EDC achieve the buy-in necessary for that? Because it's all very well for the private sector to say we want, and the EDC to say we agree, but how do you convince a line ministry that has its own tasking to take on whatever project you've devised?
So certainly the relationship between government and private sector is symbiotic. A private sector needs services, public services, and a government also needs the private sector primarily for revenue generation. And so
We've noticed.
and so it's in the best interest of government to listen to private sector. And you're right when you say that private sector, cannot necessarily only say what they need. A government also needs to say what it can and cannot do. And by brokering that open, meaningful, constructive dialogue of debating ideas, of debating problems, first of all, finding what the root causes of problems are, we can then flesh it out and then come up with possible solutions. And it's in that dialogue and discussion that the Economic Development Council representatives serve in debating, in hashing out, and in finding what the most suitable solution for both sides are. A big feature of the change that is needed is the realization that things happen in phases. Sometimes they need to happen in phases. And so figuring that out during the dialogue process is one way in which you can get buy-in from both sides.
When you hear phases, sometimes I always think that's the euphemism for it's going to take a while.
Change does take
a
time.
Indeed.
Sometimes. When you look at we started off this show today talking about crime. And it's a weird thing for me to bring up here, but a lot of times sociologists, different people say that a contributing factor, I wouldn't say the cause, but a contributing factor for some of the crime that we see is the lack of employment for certain people. And I think one of the things that everybody has been saying is that business growth, the better business do, the more opportunities there are there for people to get jobs and expand. And of course that has to do with the economy. I think a couple of shows ago we were saying that it's not the government but the private sector that grows the economy and everything that comes with that. The jobs, the foreign, all the stuff that goes with that. And I'm curious, do you see so far that if there's not yet that mentality, is there a growing mentality where public sector officials more and more are recognizing that indeed the business climate need to be adjusted to help foster that type of growth in the private sector?
From my experience, I do see a change, an appreciation from public sector that clients, the general users of public services, which includes the general public, as well as primarily the private sector, do deserve and need better, more efficient, more expedient services. And so there is a change in mentality. There's a lot of work being done within government. Various ministries are restructuring in order to be able to provide a more focused approach in the delivery of services, as well as to address malpractices from within, things that just produce inefficiencies in the system. I see a lot more incorporation of information communication technology into the provision of government services, and there is a big push to put more services online. And I think through that instance alone, it's a clear example of where government is committed to ensuring better services.
And you're alluding to the e-government initiative.
That's
and
correct.
If you want to elaborate on.
Yeah, I think that would be a good conversation to have, explaining what we're doing with e-government as a country and why it's important.
So this exercise of the rollout of more online services for the provision of public services is being led by the Central Information and Technology Office, or CITO. And they're doing a lot of work in building the core systems that will regulate how information is processed and gathered, as well as the mechanisms, the user interfaces. So they're doing a lot to bring services online, and the way that the EDC is providing some technical support is by looking at a very focused grouping of services that directly impact the business climate and private sector. So you're looking at the application for setting up a business, or the application to transfer property, as well as the dealing with construction permits, things like that. So we're looking at a very focused selection of services and helping the CETA to bring some of those services online by also having the enabling policy environment and framework to back them up and to realize them.
I would imagine part of the effects of that would be to reduce the opportunities for corruption within the system, no?
Online systems and services do enable for traceability and accountability, and it's all with the objective of making the systems, the way the processes run, more efficient and certainly more accountable.
And less discretionary.
That's correct.
Yeah, and it has, as you alluded to, it definitely affects costs in terms of ease of doing business. And I know one of the things that had been a complaint, especially with some of the ministries that are still doing it, where you have to fill out licenses and different things, and you have to go physically visit different offices to get things done. I think it was last week, we had the launch of with BLAPS, the electronic system that is for licensing online. That's an important step. And I know you mentioned phases, and I think even with the whole e-government initiative, different departments and ministries are coming on in phases,
Yes.
you know, in their different steps. So we're looking forward to seeing when that is complete and finished. You know, where, for example, somebody who wants to set up a business, the ideal would be, I've seen in other countries where they do it online completely, almost, and it takes barely a day.
It's, you know, that's an example of one of the key indicators that go into the ranking of Belize's doing business report. And that's a global report that basically assesses the ease in which, for example, a business can be set up, but also the way in which other services are accessed. And so everything affects our ranking. And if we're not performing well in one area, it really, you know, causes a negative push on where we stand. And so bringing some of these services online, we have a project that will specifically look at digitizing the doing business indicators for Belize, with the objective of helping to improve Belize's performance and thereby improve our overall ranking globally.
Excellent. Some of the other initiatives you mentioned just a while ago was like the trade licensing. I think we also recently saw the change with packaging, where a few packaging items specifically were brought down in terms of tariff. And if you care to elaborate on any of those? Certainly.
On the case of, you know, on trade license reform, this is being led by the Ministry of Local Government. And we know, or you might know, that one of the problems facing the private sector with regard to trade licensing is that generally, you know, the level of fee that had to be paid was felt to be burdensome, high, costly.
And incredibly discretionary.
And discretionary. And one of the reasons for that is that across municipalities, there was no standard way of assessing the fee that would be applicable to trade license. And perhaps even within the same municipalities, there was no set system of valuing.
I think the law called for up to 25% of the annual rental value.
Correct.
Where the annual rental value could be any number.
That's correct. And so one of the reform exercises, you know, or some of the objective of the reform exercises is to promote predictability in the system by having, you know, some clear, simple, standardized system for doing that sort of analysis at the municipal levels and across municipalities. Some ideas under consideration are a flat fee schedule, the development of a standard rental value methodology, as well as the strengthening of a tribunal process, because there was not a system in place or an effective system in place for bringing disputes on the topic of trade license. And so all of that is being put into the framework of trade license reform. And that's a work in progress. There's a lot more to get done, but much consultation has happened from the Chamber of Commerce and the wider private sector that has fed into the design of the options.
Yeah, and I think it had, I know it had its first reading, the Trade Licensing Amendment Bill had its first reading a couple of months ago in the National Assembly. I think for now, I guess they're working on maybe more the technical side or something to go in the regulations, but I guess that's again another topic for another day. And you also, the packaging and the labeling.
Yes. You were alluding to the ability of businesses to be able to survive. Affordability is a key issue, especially for small and medium enterprises. And the objective of the packaging and labeling reform, which is being led by the Ministry of Investment, Trade and Commerce, is to allow for a reduction in the import duty levied on packaging and labeling or packaging materials, with the idea that you then enable your small businesses to be more competitive, to perhaps export more because their product will be more attractive, and even before that to sell more domestically. And that's important for import substitution. There's a lot that we produce that is high quality, that is good, that is innovative and healthy. But if you don't necessarily have the full package, so to speak, the chance of people choosing those local products is
your
low.
packaging isn't attractive, and if it drives up the cost of your product.
Yes.
I heard an argument recently, and just thought I'd bring it up since you're here. There's been some murmurs in the media, but outside of the media as well, I heard somebody say that if you want to bring down the cost of packaging, the idea isn't just to lower duties on imported packaging, because some people might hold on to the price and just make all the margin in between, but that rather it might be useful to have just a couple of people importing at mandated prices. What's the EDC's thought on that?
I think that proposition would need to be weighed very carefully to consider the pros and cons in order to ascertain, some of the weaknesses of the proposal, but also certainly to consider some of the strengths. In terms of where the EDC stands on it, I think it's best left up to access by the market, to
shouldn't
regulate.
market forces dictate pricing better than one or two?
Yeah, that might be the way to go.
Well, this is where the economists, probably kicks in. We're talking in favor of market forces. I think we get uncomfortable when you start talking about some of these ideas of price controlling things.
Right.
Well, I just wonder, I'm intrigued by the fact that the idea of price control is still out there. Perhaps because we're a small economy, some people think it still makes sense. But when I heard that argument, I had to raise an eyebrow, no? The other aspect of packaging is, looking at styrofoam. Is there any issue there?
There is an inadvertent issue whereby, again, this reform is being introduced in phases, and on the topic of plastics per se, because there's no mention of styrofoam per se in our tariff books. It is polystyrene. It is a plastic, and there was an inadvertent capture of that material in the list of items that were granted duty exemption. It is something that is being corrected, and I'm assured by the ministry as well as the customs department that this is being looked into and worked on. As we know, polystyrene is a solid waste problem, an environmental problem for Belize, and certainly something that we need to take to heart.
Quickly.
We also need to come up with the alternatives, especially for small businesses, small food establishments. And that's the objective of the reform, to be able to have something available for them that is cost efficient to offer, instead of something that is very detrimental to the environment.
So it's, and that's what's important to point out there, that it's not mutually exclusive, the idea of having affordable packaging but have it be friendly to the environment. You can combine both notions.
Certainly.
And I assume that this packaging reform is intended to get there.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, I had met, and I won't call their name here, but soon after that legislation, the change to the packaging, and you probably practice pronouncing that technical word for plastic. I'm not going to shame myself and
polystyrene?
Show off.
Say it again, polystyrene.
Yeah, but I had a meeting request with certain people from the private sector, but also who are very much focused on the environment, which is, I think, all Belizeans.
Quite rightly, yeah.
Yeah, well, all Belizeans agree with. Where that, when they saw it in the law, they raised concerns because it was, okay, this is something that's damaging to the environment. But that's not what I want to focus on. One of the things that came out of that meeting was that there's a lot of ideas, eco-friendly ideas that seem that could replace some of the more harmful with the more environmentally friendly products that serve the same function. But again, I guess it comes back to other issues that you mentioned in Doing Business Index earlier. Another issue that comes up is access to finance, and how do we finance these initiatives. And I mean, I don't know if this is something, I don't see it here on the list that that we have here, but some of the things that we know we need to look at as an economy is how our laws allow for, you know, easier access to financing for small businesses, especially for small businesses that may have innovative, environmentally friendly ideas.
Yes.
You know,
it's one of the beauties and the benefits of having a mechanism for dialogue between private and public sectors, that you have exposure, or both sides have exposure to some of the opportunities, some of the needs that present themselves for the country. And through that dialogue mechanism, I think you can then promote more ready action on, you know, with regard to some of those opportunities. There's a lot of work that needs to be done, and so a focused approach is important. Certain things are critical, but they are there. People are talking about it more, and the idea is that you then come up with something that's workable and usable.
Yeah, and I agree. And some of the topics, shifting a bit, some of the things we're talking about so far are some of the big ticket items that I think has been coming out of the EDC, but that's not the only work you do. There's a lot of times where certain regulations might be passed, or certain things that affect business groups or clusters of business or different groups that you do. I think your office does take time to meet and have some of these conversations. If I'm not, as of recently, because I keep on seeing this guy around the place. Not too long ago, we had some meetings with different individual sectors, you know, where some of their concerns were being raised, which I doubt we can get into here. But what I wanted to hear, I mean, is that you once described yourself as the voice of the private sector in government. How do you see yourself filling that role? I mean, do you see actually getting that voice out there?
I think there's a lot of visibility and awareness that needs to happen for the public and the private sector specifically, to be aware of the usefulness, the importance of the Economic Development Council and the Public-Private Desk, so that then there's a more steady flow of information and communication. You know, with the idea that we can help to resolve some of the bottlenecks affecting the business community. Things come across the desk that may or may not require high-level policy reform. Some things just take having a clear understanding of processes, a discussion with the relevant ministry or authority, and hopefully resolving the problems. And so certainly addressing bottlenecks to commerce and business is something that we're doing, we're able to do. And as the primary mechanism for communication and dialogue between private sector and government, it's a role that we can do very well based on the position, the location where we sit in the office of the Prime Minister, and having the ability to convene different relevant agencies and ministries.
And I think that's important, because I'm glad you put it that way. Certain things that affect from the regulatory standpoint aren't necessarily things that need to go to Parliament. They don't need a major policy change. It's literally within the purview of an individual department. Sometimes it requires an SI, which again doesn't need parliamentary approval.
Or sometimes just a conversation.
Or just a conversation. And I think that's why I asked that question at the beginning of this segment. I mean, when it comes to the mindset or the mentalities, and have you seen that being changed? You know, because sometimes I've seen public officers who definitely get it, who definitely have that view that, you know what, we need to facilitate business. I mean, I can think of one person in mind, but I don't know if you want me to mention his name, but he definitely has that forward, progressive thinking for business. And I think it's catching on, but again, I think you have your work cut out for you.
Yes, we do have our champions. We do have our champions within departments and ministries, and so we're exceedingly grateful for the support and the encouragement that we receive from them. There's a lot of great work being done, and let's do it.
I think the word is actually spreading. There's, as you say, there's been a vast improvement in attitude and approach towards what the EDC is trying to do, and a lot more people jumping on board, hasn't there?
Yes, yes, absolutely. And our plan is in the new year to roll out a communication strategy that will continue to raise awareness and that will provide more of a forum for people to access the services of our unit. In trying to resolve bottlenecks, in improving the business climate, in making business happen.
But I don't know, did we get the signal just now?
I think we have about 5 more minutes to wrap
because
up.
one of the things that we haven't mentioned, which I am surprised it hasn't already come up anyway, is the Transportation Master Plan.
Yes, yes, yes.
That's saving the biggest for last.
Saving the biggest for last. The Department of Public-Private Sector Dialogue, or the Public-Private Desk, is the implementing agency for an IDB-funded comprehensive national transportation master plan that covers roads, ports, and airports. The idea is to enable infrastructure to be invested in that supports sustainable socioeconomic growth and development. Our primary industries are agriculture and tourism, but if you don't get your products and people to market in an efficient way, the entire experience becomes affected, and our profitability, is affected there. And so, infrastructure invested in by the public sector, as well as in partnership with the private sector, is critical. And this is one of the objectives of the National Transportation Master Plan. There have been extensive consultations with the private sector, including end users, and that has led to a really good, comprehensive master plan in development that we expect to be completed by the end of this year or early next year.
And we've heard about master plans before. There's been the tourism master plan, there's been the Belize City master plan. Relatively easy to develop a master plan, but what happens next?
Well, relatively easy, I beg to differ.
No, when I say that, it's relatively easy compared to actually getting these things implemented.
Indeed.
How does the EDC, how do we go about getting that implemented and getting these changes and reforms in process?
So a key input into the master planning, so to speak, has been ensuring that the master plan is aligned to our other development strategies. In country, we've heard of GSDS, and then the overarching Horizon 2030. Those still have a big role to play, because as you gear all energies towards achieving some of the targets, some of the objectives set out in those strategies, you can then guide in a focused way what a specific master plan is meant to do. The next step for implementation will involve capacity building at the public sector level, but also engagement with the private sector. There is private sector money that needs to be leveraged, and the private sector is interested in making some of those investments in infrastructure. What needs to be designed and developed are the mechanisms to foster that. And that's going to be one of the ways in which we actually get some of what the master plan suggests as important infrastructure implemented.
In other words, this is one of those efforts that will involve all hands on deck.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, and the level of importance of it demands that. I mean, the buzz phrase public-private partnership, I've heard around, dashed around, thrown around quite
like
a bit.
polystyrene.
Sorry I said that, but
it's another P.
It's another P. But yeah, I mean, and the effect that it has on the economy. I think it's not one of the hypest topics out there to talk about transportation and ports and airports and roads, but I think the science has concluded that there is an effect on the ability to do business, on the cost of the productivity, and how competitive we can be. So I think all hands has to be on deck for something of this magnitude, no?
Indeed. And I think a clearer understanding of what exactly public-private partnerships is going to be critical. It's something that is very technical, and it needs to be weighed, the pros and the cons, and determining what's best for the country and the people.
Applied strategically, as it were.
Yes.
Ishmael, we could stay here talking with you for hours, but it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Assuming the office of Executive Director. And we hope that we can continue the conversation on some other occasion.
I look forward to it. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks for coming in. We'll go to break now, and when we come back, we will have our this week's entrepreneur.
And prevail. The 24 forecast is for skies to become cloudy at times, with a few showers or periods of rain and isolated thunderstorms, mainly over the sea and along some coastal areas. Winds over the open sea will be from the north to northwest at 10 to 20 knots, and sea conditions will be moderate to rough. A small craft caution remains in effect for gusty winds and locally rough seas near showers and thunderstorms. High temperatures today will be around 85 Fahrenheit over coastal areas, 88 Fahrenheit inland, and 75 Fahrenheit in the hills. Lows tonight will range from 74 Fahrenheit along the coast to 72 Fahrenheit inland and 64 Fahrenheit in the hills. A high tide will occur at 7:33 this morning, followed by a low tide at 14 minutes after 1 this afternoon. The moon will set at 3 minutes after 3 this afternoon, and the sun will set at 17 minutes after 5 this evening. The outlook is for activity to be generally isolated except for a few more over northern and inland areas Wednesday afternoon and over the south Wednesday night. In a tropical weather outlook for the North Atlantic, the Caribbean Sea, and the Gulf of Mexico, tropical cyclone formation is not expected during the next 48 hours. This concludes this morning's weather report from the National Meteorological Service.
It's not just a job, it is mentoring.
It's leading.
It's showing.
It's building. It's inspiring.
It's caring.
It's working. And you're going to drop that into your briefcase. Teaching is not just a job, it's everything.
Apply today. For more information, including scholarship opportunities, visit teachbelize.org.
Salutes Al Garinagu on Thursday, November 16th from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. at Builders Hardware Parking Lot. There will be Garifuna dancing and drumming by the Lirania Satuya Dance Group straight out of Tangrika. There will be Garifuna food and snacks on sale. The show continues straight through lunch. Come experience Garifuna culture at its best. That's Thursday, November 16th at the Builders Hardware Parking Lot. Inviting all schools in the Belmopan area to attend. Let's honor and celebrate the rich cultural experience of Belize. Lidayeng uwarane awa seruri. Mabulay dawame. Happy Garifuna Settlement Day from Builders Hardware.
In 1988, it was communication. In 2000, it was AIDS. Men make a difference. In 2016, it was Hands up for #HIV prevention. Join us as we commemorate World AIDS Day 2017 under the theme, The Right to Health. This year, the National AIDS Commission, the United Nations Development Programme, the Ministry of Health, and Digicel invites you to join us as we recognize and honor people and families living with and affected by HIV/AIDS. On Friday, December 1st, join us at the Battlefield Park from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m., where there will be the commemoration ceremony, live music, live art displays, games, and much more. There will also be free HIV testing at the designated sites nationwide. World AIDS Day 2017, The Right to Health. This message is being brought to you through the courtesy of the National AIDS Commission, the United Nations Development Programme, Ministry of Health, and Digicel.
Friends of Gerard Placid present Victory. The concert with Gerard Placid and band. 3-time American McDonald's Gospel Soloist winner, U.S. Army veteran. Also featuring Kings Park Church of the Nazarene Army, New Tide, and Alive Dance Ministry. 7 p.m. at the Bliss Center for the Performing Arts on November 18th, 2017. Special door prizes. Entrance fee $20. For tickets, call 610-4691 or 628-5466. Also available at the Bliss and Central Assembly of God. Supporting sponsor, Channel Broadcasting Cable.
The circle starts with solid support and a smile. This is real life. With its ups and its downs. This is going the extra mile. And the feeling you get when you can help someone along their journey. Through the twists and turns, we're here. This is Western Union, making sure your support reaches its destination. This is Western Union, moving money for better.
Look for a Zetro location near you, because Zetro gives you more.
Imagine what's possible when everything you need is in one place, where all of your information is shared across a system the moment everything changes. We've handcrafted the truly awesome HR software you've been looking for. Say hello to the all-in-one HR platform. Say hello to Neo People. With Neo People, employee records are transformed from boring old files that no one updates to real-time digital files that you bring to life. When you use Neo People, employees and managers can view all of their own information, and requests for a vacation is now easier to book, and applications are never lost. So, where would you rather be working? You could work in an old HR world where softwares are boring and the system causes more headache than they should. Or you can work in an awesome new HR world where your software is beautiful and friendly and where people are valued and fully engaged. Your employees will love it and you'll be a hero, because the easiest way to manage your human resources is to treat them like people with Neo People.
We're up on the finishing of the album. We just do the lead couple things.
kila kila tina uo Nubu chile Kasani sinu maya ubo Ihe nubu tinidi Madira kutina nuli kwa nubu chile Nubu chile Kei kirale achara katubai Najiri budamu wabu nubu chile Nubu chile
Good morning and welcome back, and we're off to our third segment of today's Business Perspective show. And this segment is why Dion and I felt a little bit pressured to look maybe a little better this morning.
Love it.
We have, as usual in this segment, we sit and discuss with an entrepreneur what their secret to success is and the challenges they've faced along the way. And honestly, I'm talking about what we do because I have no need to introduce today's entrepreneur. Everybody knows her. This our entrepreneur today that we're very glad to have come and joined us for this conversation has a lot of experience for such a young person, and has been through the beauty and wellness business inside and out. She is Mappy Smith of Mappy's Beauty World, and look forward to the conversation with Mappy. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
So Dion, you were going to discuss the beauty
really,
aspect,
no? Put me for the beauty aspect, right?
Wanted to talk about how nails are done and
very good. And more men need to be getting done and getting groomed.
No, but welcome, Miss Mappy.
Thanks for having me.
I like Miss Mappy, you know, because I called her and said, Miss Mappy, care to be on the show? And it's like, and there was hardly any hesitation. It's like, yeah, man, we have to get out there. But I think this has something to do with the leadership conference.
Yes, we all get inspired. We were excited. It was so good.
Yeah. Well, usually I mean, I've been told by some people who have gotten feedback from on the show that this is one of the segments that they enjoy, where they get to hear about the business people. I think people are getting inspired by some of these stories,
Very nice.
and I think that's one of the things that we want this show to have that type of impact, where people are who are maybe on the edge of thinking about business, they are like, you know what? After listening, you really get inspired. And some of the stories I hear from you, like for example, the length of time, you know, about when you, I don't know, forgive me, I have to go there.
Since birth. 30 years. Born to it. We'll go.
I'm sorry, I have to ask. Because, you know, but when did you get started, and where the idea to go off on your own came from, and why Mappies Beauty World?
Well, I really have the salon. I have been in business for 30 years in Belize. And but I did graduate at 15. Back then, you used to skip your 4 to 6 and all these things. So when I went to high school, I did graduate at 15. So I want you to know. I'm just giving you a time span. I won't tell you how much. Working, so. Yeah, so if you want to add up numbers and things like that. But the thing about it is so many people are doing what they're good at and they don't know. Okay. And I was told what I was good at. When I was in school, I looked at it, and already from the time I was in high school, I was doing my teacher's eyebrows, doing lunch, and doing my friends and these little things.
So you had a passion?
I always had a passion. And then I figured, okay, let's see how I get somebody to pay me. Because at the time they were paying me with maybe only powder bun, or, you know, they bring something from home. But then afterwards you realize there's a market for this, and people wanted what you were. You were doing it anyway. You were doing it for free, so you need to get somebody to pay. And I always tell people that's the best way to know what you want to do. What do you enjoy doing? What do people tell you you're good at? And that is where you go off. Because just to add to that, because I have been teaching at St. Catherine's for 13 years also, which I teach grooming, personal grooming, and grooming them mentally to figure out what they want to do. And for all those people who don't know what they want to do, I said, what are you good at? What do you do that is so good? What do you enjoy doing? What's your passion? And then just figure out how you'll get somebody to pay you for it. So maybe that's the area you go off into.
That's a valid point, because I know so many people that do enjoy doing something to the point where they think it's not worth asking for payment for it.
Right, that's the
and that's a tricky one. So that's a very key point you've made in entrepreneurship, that if you're good at something that other people aren't good at, you can make a living off it.
You can make
Nothing
a living.
wrong with that.
So many people.
And I think what's interesting about that is because you are saying this is something that came somewhat sounding natural.
Yes,
that's a natural gift that you have, that everybody has one of those, whether they realize it or not.
Well, at the time in high school, I was a science student because, you know, based on your grades, they put you in sciences. So automatically you were in, I was in science, and we did sciences. And now I know the benefits of science, because I love when I go to do these career days, I tell them the importance of each subject. So when I talk to young people, because the sciences now, and that is where I had found my niche market in this area, because I looked at, for me, my niche market is I look at the disorders of the nail, the hair, and the skin. If you're having a problem, that's where I come in. And we deal with outside, and there's so many of these young ladies, they're doing fantastic. Everybody could flat iron nicely, or they could do all these things. But when you have a problem, when you have a scalp problem and you can't understand what is happening to you, I am the person who takes care. Even if you went to the doctor, you might need somebody to take care of the outside. And then we know how to refer people to the doctor and different things like that.
So this is more than just a salon.
Oh, no. This is a established business that's taking care of people. We really care about people, you know, making a difference. It's like saving lives. When somebody walk out of there, you're definitely going to feel better. You know,
so it's an attitude. It's not just a service. It's
definitely
more holistic than that.
And you build relationships with people. You look at their strengths, and you look at what is their assets and how they work on that. And
as you say that, another key issue I think that most people in business try to remember, but sometimes the people that work for them forget, or, you know, we don't necessarily put the weight on customer service that we should, do we? What are your thoughts on how to convince people of the importance of customer service?
Because customer service is always, it's not that you're selling the product or the service, you're selling what they need, what people need. And so you really have to personalize it. And you have to treat each person and never assume what somebody needs. You know, you have to ask them, and then you meet their needs. And it's just having that one-on-one with customers, and so I think that's where I come in. Even though I have my young ladies, and so I make sure before someone leave that salon, I touch them, I ask them if they liked it, if there was something that we could do better. We're not scared of getting a feedback, you know, things like that. So you always do that survey to make sure that you have a return customer. To make
I think that makes, I mean, when you talk about that loyalty, customer loyalty,
Yes.
building that customer loyalty, I think that is something that every business needs to understand. Because good customer service can make or break your business, you know, easily. And one of the things I want to ask you, you mentioned the workers that you have. One, how many workers do you have in your salon? And go ahead.
Right, I have 4 core workers that work with me. So they're all good at some area. They're really, I mean, they have areas where they're better than I am. And so my strength is in cutting and doing finish work. I try to finish all their work because I like excellence, that type of thing, where they realize they need to build on that. How you leave that excellence. And I do hair cutting because it goes with the shape of the face and different things like that. So I really do all my haircuts. But other than that, these young ladies are doing the best braids. The young lady who does the pedicure, the way how she takes care of the foot and does a pedicure. It's just amazing how they get into it. And also, I have a young lady who's very good at chemicals, and she does a lot. We guide her, we look at the colors, we do consultation when the customer comes in, what suits them best if they want to use a color. My experience comes in more in that area. Okay. But these girls are really good.
Yeah, I just like that the fact that your passion, your dream, turns around hiring people and providing opportunities for others.
Yes, and no, I mean, we have so many people have gone off on their own. So that's one of the things in this business, and people get personal when people leave. I think I'm more worried about the attitude where people leave, where they don't know to tell you that, you know, in business that they want to leave or something like that. But we're in a business where people will grow, and you would have empowered them enough to tell them you are so good that you can go on your own, and then they will leave one day, but it's the day they leave when they don't say anything. But other than that, that is what, you know, it's like looking at your children grow up and then they go off on their own.
It's an entrepreneur encouraging entrepreneurs.
Exactly.
If you hadn't had that encouragement at some point, I imagine that it's not just your own inspiration, but along the way people have told you and encouraged you and taken you a step further. So paying it forward, no?
So you're not afraid of the competition?
Oh, no. I have the service that I come with, and, you know, my expertise definitely, you know, has its own place. And I have, and I get to choose who I want to work with because I really like certain clients and I like what they bring, and there's a networking for women. I don't care who says gossiping at the salon. That's not my salon. That's somebody else. You know, we network and we look at the positive in each other. And I mean, there's so much going on as far as network, which is key for women.
What are some of the challenges you faced along the way? You've been an entrepreneur since birth.
Yes.
What are some of the challenges you faced along the way, and how did you tackle them?
The growth of the business that went very fast on me was one thing. And I love to tell young people, because I was one of these people. I knew what I wanted, and the minute I got out of high school, I went off. I think I worked a year in Belize or so. And then I went off to school in the U.S. And I wish I had gone on to sixth form. So I looked, as I grow the business, I had to grow myself. I had to do extra classes. I had to do,
because you were young when you graduated.
Right, you were young when you graduated. And there's so much, and I always tell everyone, the more you learn, the more you earn. So you have to learn more how to keep this business in doing. I mean, everything is computerized now. How do we get? So we had to do some of those areas. We had to look at my Spanish. I have to tighten it up because we have a lot of clients who speak Spanish. So we have to. I tell young people the importance of Spanish in school. More than half the country is Spanish. We need the clientele. So we have to make sure at least we can communicate with them. So I had to build myself in that area. You know, I had to do some more accounting business. So all of those are things, because now I'm running a business. It's not just a little salon because we have gone into sales, and sales is very large for us. That's a big market that we have there.
No, actually, that was going to be my next question, because off air you had mentioned that you have gone into the sales. So what are some of the products that you specialize in?
Well, we specialize in gifts. We love gift items. You can find a gift for anyone, from your granny to your grandson to your baby, you know, things like that. And we like gifts because the very clients we serve, they don't necessarily might have the time to go elsewhere. So you'd find that they would say, do you have a gift? I have to go to a party. People come there when they're going to a party or they're going to a wedding. So we have to find gift ideas for them. And I sell beauty supplies and I sell perfumes and colognes. They have their husbands or their better halves and they want to find a gift for them. So we need to have things for men also. So people really think that we just do female, but we have to look at that area. And then we sell from this Brazilian gold to costume jewelry, because when somebody's going through the door, they needed a set to go with that. And we look at cosmetics. Cosmetics is very big. I think that's one of the areas that I'm really expanding on right now, putting more cosmetics in place, because people go to other stores and you can pick it up off the shelf, but at my business, I will give you an idea what is best for you. I will look at the look that you want. And the look doesn't mean look like how I look. You tell me, I like natural makeup. I don't want color. So those are some of the things we try to encourage people with makeup. Makeup is not just to brighten you up, but it's to enhance. If you have small eyes, we can make them look bigger. You have small lips, we can make... Oh, sorry, I wasn't talking about anybody around here with very small lips. But if you have, we can show you how to make them bigger. And you tell people indirectly, maybe, you could try one that's plumping. So we invite people that look with those things that they would like to come back, and then we suggest to them what is best for them. Your eyebrows, how you get it done, different things like that. So we are really consultants, and that's what makes the difference in that area.
That's what it really sounds like a real beauty consultant.
Yes, that's what it is. You end up
being very client focused, which is as it should be.
Yes.
I go for my makeup, my makeover.
No, and men especially.
So be there.
And men need to. It is big. I have been, because I did the personal grooming at St. Catherine's, we go into the workplace, and all of a sudden there was a market to look at grooming and etiquette in the workplace. And when we go in, the men especially have no idea. What are you talking like? I just get up every morning, and I said, no, you need to do more than get up every morning. You need to do, well, look at you, you're so groomed yourself, you took care, you could see. Some people say, well, I take 2 minutes to dress, and usually they look like 2 minutes. So you could see the people who put a little more time, and even so men. I am so glad that you're wearing a dark shirt this morning, because everybody have the undershirt to show. And we talk about the guys who have the underwear to show. But we're also showing our underwear as men. Everybody have one white t-shirt under. You chose black, which is toning you down. So it didn't...
There's hope for you yet.
I know.
I will pronounce polyester.
Knowing the pants as them, right? Looking at... So when we go into the workplace, we look at the pants. Here, Ernesto has a flat front. Whereas if he wanted to look more, to match the upper, if you're small and the lower, you could have used something pleated instead. Everybody wear white socks. So we can sell the socks that match. There's so many things that men need to look at and grooming themselves.
So if we walk into a salon, we shouldn't be getting the what are you doing in here look.
Oh, wow. That means you like the finer things in life, and that's okay.
No, I'm not going at that salon.
Yes, you are. You can. We do. We have
will make an appointment for him out there, okay?
We have a lot of men who come for pedicures. Pedicures are very big for men because the chairs alone give you the massage and you lay back and you get all that. And so I think you will pay less on your sheets, so you don't have to change them so often if your toenails clip and things like that. So wives send their husbands, I say, go get a pedicure, you might need one. And so, yes,
it
like
is not manly to have ashy elbows and
exactly.
feet. Right?
Like that, I walk into Anya, I'll be like, I'm here, my wife sent me.
And I don't want to say, we have a lot of men who I do their hair who prefer a woman to do his hair or not. And because I'm on his show, there's no reason why Renee Villanueva looks so good every day except because I do his hair. For years and years.
Wow.
From when I was young, that's why he's so handsome.
So now we know.
Yeah, I know. I just had to because I'm on the show, so I had to tell.
Now Love News has a scoop.
Yeah, I think the next thing that we go into is the spa and wellness.
Yes.
That we know that you're big in, and you also said you're part of the Belize Spa and Wellness Association. So I really would like to hear more about that.
Yes, the Belize Spa and Wellness is such a dynamic area, and the reason I looked at it because that is what's going to bring foreign dollars for the country. That's a service and product that we can export. And so all of a sudden, anytime you can export something, the country gets excited, everybody gets excited because it's going to bring in foreign dollars. And it goes with tourism. And it's extremely big. It goes with tourism. People are coming in And when they come to this country, they come to relax. But they're tired of the same old, the generic Swedish massage, Thai massage. And so we came up, being a part of the Caribbean Spa and Wellness, we did the Maya signature massage a month or two ago. And right now we are doing a proposal to put it on the market and how we are going to market this to the world. And picture you go to France and they said, I went to Belize and I had a Maya signature massage. You have that there because people want something different. They're looking for different things. They come here for different. They don't want the same thing that's in America. Mm-hmm. And so Belize has this to put on the market. And it's not just the service, but it goes with the product that comes with it. It goes with the oils from Belize, using the cohoon oil and all the natural oils. It goes with the scent of the copal that the Mayan use. It goes with the tea, because you use the five senses. And when you have touched the five senses, people never forget that experience. Mm-hmm. And you probably have the tea or you have a drink, Maya. When you walk in to that room, we will be selling a background for the room and the clothing that the Maya people wear. So we hope that the Maya people all the music in the background. So those are all the different five senses. But we really want Maya people to also benefit, because we are very proud of the indigenous and what they're doing. And we had Maya judges and different things like that. And so we're looking at that, and that's what we're really marketing for them.
How's it been going so far?
Like everything else, money. So we don't, all the time we don't have to look within Belize. We are going Compete Caribbean has a cluster for a cluster group. And about 45 different people won in different categories. We chose the best from all entries. And we're looking at a cluster group and coming together, and we have put in for a proposal which we feel very positive about. We have key people working on it, reading it over, making sure, and we hope we do well. Mm-hmm. But if we don't, one of the things, yes, we will do. Yes, we will. But one of the things I love writing a proposal, because now you know exactly what you want and you realize how you can make it, and so we are very excited to have that.
I think there's definitely much more we can talk about, especially with the cluster group, because business clusters are a significant part of doing business these days. Mm-hmm. But we're getting that signal.
I would like to close off with one quick question to Ms. Mappy. What advice would you have for aspiring entrepreneurs in any sector?
Be consistent. I think the main thing, people need to be consistent. You need to get up every day, dress up every day. You can't decide you're going to have a bad day. Belize have 6 months rainy and 6 months dry. Even those, because people tend to want to stay. You got to get up, you have to go to work, and you have to be prepared for business because it comes. I had a rainy day and one of my girls didn't come to work last week or 2 weeks ago. The same day they gave off at school, teachers, they said, oh, we're off, we're coming, my business gets busy. So even on a rainy day, you have to be prepared, you have to be there, and I think people tend to just walk away and
on a rainy day, you have to be prepared.
Even on a rainy day, you need to be
It's not just preparing for a rainy day, it's preparing on a rainy day.
On a rainy day. Very good.
All right. Ms. Mappy, thank you so much for taking the time to come and see us. Congratulations on the spa and wellness venture. It sounds really exciting. Yes. And keep being an inspiration for young female entrepreneurs in particular.
Thanks for having me.
And we hope to be able to talk with you again sometime soon.
Sure.
Thank you. And folks, thank you for joining us for the Business Perspective, and we will see you again next Tuesday. Thank you.
Friends of Gerard Placid present Victory. The concert with Gerard Placid and band. 3-time American McDonald's Gospel Soloist winner, U.S. Army veteran, also featuring Kings Park Church of the Nazarene Army, New Tide, and Alive Dance Ministry. 7 p.m. at the Bliss Center for the Performing Arts on November 18th, 2017. Special door prizes. Entrance fee $20. For tickets, call 610-4691 or 628-5466. Also available at the Bliss and Central Assembly of God. Supporting sponsor, Channel Broadcasting Cable.
The holidays are always so busy. This season, make room for what's really important. Time with each other. Time to be thankful. Time
time to share and build memories. Give the most memorable gift of all, family. Enjoy the holiday season with an Atlantic Bank Easy Credit Loan. Apply today and enjoy low interest rates, convenient repayment terms, and make no principal payments up to 2 months. With every approved loan, get a chance to win one of 10 fantastic prizes. For more details, visit atlabank.com. Atlantic Bank, creating memories this Christmas.
What's your idea of holiday happiness?
Watching the kids open presents. Preparing for a new arrival.
The look on his face. Add to your holiday happiness with a Scotia Plan loan from Scotiabank. You could win cash and more. Get your loan today at your nearest branch. Conditions apply.
Everybody, come here. Let's go.
Doing what now, boy?